On a quiet Tuesday morning in Ohio, Robert Miller, a retired high school teacher now in his early 60s, sat at the kitchen table with a glass of fresh orange juice by his side. The sunlight filtered through the blinds, and the sound of a local news channel played softly in the background. Robert had always believed that filling his breakfast with fruit was the smartest way to stay healthy. Oranges, bananas, even papayas when his daughter brought them from the store, it all seemed like the right choice. But recently a headline caught his eye: top neurosurgeon warns. 5 common fruits may increase stroke risk. At first he chuckled, thinking it was just another scare tactic, yet something about the article made him pause. Could it be possible that the very foods he trusted for his health were quietly putting him at risk? Robert leaned back in his chair, the glass of orange juice still untouched. His wife Linda walked into the kitchen carrying a basket of laundry. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she teased. Robert handed her the newspaper article on his tablet. She frowned as she skimmed through it. 5 fruits, really? That sounds exaggerated. Robert wanted to agree, but a part of him couldn't shake off the unease. After all, his father had suffered a minor stroke at 65, and Robert was only a few years away from that milestone. He thought about the bowl of bananas on the counter, the avocados ripening in a brown paper bag, and the carton of orange juice in the fridge. They weren't exotic luxuries, these were staples of their daily life. "If this is true," Robert muttered, "maybe we've been getting it wrong all along." That afternoon, Robert sat at his desk with his reading glasses perched low on his nose, scrolling through medical websites and health forums. He wasn't one to panic easily, but this time he felt a knot tightening in his chest. Every article he found seemed to repeat the same warning: too much sugar, too much potassium, hidden compounds that could stress the heart or kidneys. The word stroke risk kept flashing in his mind like a neon sign. Linda peeked in and said gently, "Why don't you call Dr. Harris and ask him directly? You trust him, don't you?" Robert nodded. His longtime physician had guided him through everything from cholesterol checks to knee pain. If anyone could make sense of this, it was Dr. Harris. With a deep breath, Robert picked up the phone, ready to get answers, partly fearful, partly hopeful that this was all just an exaggeration. The next morning, Robert sat in the small consultation room at Dr. Harris's clinic. The walls were lined with family photos and framed medical degrees, a quiet reminder that this man had seen thousands of patients like him. Dr. Harris, a calm man in his late 50s with silver hair and a steady voice, glanced over Robert's recent test results before leaning back in his chair. "Robert," he began, "fruit is good, but too much of certain types can backfire. Mangoes, papayas, bananas, avocados, oranges, they all have benefits, but they also carry risks if you overdo it, especially at your age." Robert felt his palms sweat. He had always thought eating more fruit was the safest bet. Dr. Harris leaned forward, softening his tone. "I'm not saying cut them out completely. I'm saying moderation. Think of fruit like medicine. The right dose helps, but too much can harm." Robert nodded slowly, realizing this was not just a headline scare. Dr. Harris tapped his pen gently on the desk. "Let's start with mangoes," he said. "I know they're sweet and delicious, great in smoothies, salads, even as a summer snack, but the sugar content is higher than most people realize. For someone in their 60s with blood pressure creeping up or borderline cholesterol, too many mangoes can cause real trouble." Robert thought back to last summer when his daughter Emily had visited with her kids. She had made a giant bowl of mango slices, and Robert had eaten nearly half of it himself, laughing as the grandchildren begged for more. At the time it felt harmless, fruit was supposed to be healthy. But now, hearing it laid out so plainly, he could almost feel the weight of each sugary bite. "So 1 or 2 slices is fine," Dr. Harris continued, "but not a plateful every other day. That's when risk turns real." Robert swallowed hard, realizing for the first time that even innocent pleasures could carry hidden costs. Dr. Harris adjusted his glasses and continued, "Papaya is another one people often overlook. It feels light, tropical, even medicinal to some. But in reality, it carries a similar issue as mango. Its natural sugars can be overwhelming if you eat too much." Robert nodded, recalling the small papaya his neighbor Miguel often shared during the summer. Miguel had grown up in Puerto Rico and loved slicing papayas for everyone on the block, insisting they were the perfect health food. Robert remembered finishing an entire plate once, proud of himself for choosing fruit instead of pie. "Papayas also have compounds that in excess can affect blood pressure," Dr. Harris explained. "Again, the danger isn't in one slice. It's when people make it a daily habit, thinking more is always better." Robert sighed, realizing how often he had equated fruit with guilt-free eating. Linda, sitting quietly beside him, touched his arm and whispered, "Maybe we've both been fooling ourselves a little." For the first time, Robert felt a pang of regret, not just for his choices, but for how casually he had trusted old habits. Dr. Harris flipped to another page in Robert's chart. Now bananas, he said with a half smile. They're probably the most common fruit in American kitchens. Good source of potassium, quick energy, easy to grab on the go. But here's the problem, too much potassium can strain your kidneys, and bananas also contain tyramine, which can constrict blood vessels and raise blood pressure. Robert frowned. On the counter back home sat a bowl with at least 6 ripe bananas. He ate one almost every morning with his oatmeal, sometimes two if he felt hungry after mowing the lawn. I thought they were heart-healthy, Robert muttered. Dr. Harris nodded. One a day is fine, Robert, but 3 or 4, especially at your age, could tip the balance. Robert chuckled weakly, remembering how his grandson once joked, "Grandpa, you're like a monkey with those bananas." The humor now felt thinner, edged with concern. He suddenly realized that what he had dismissed as harmless routine might be nudging him toward the same fate his father once faced. Dr. Harris leaned back in his chair. Let's talk about avocados. Everyone thinks they're the poster child of health, avocado toast, guacamole, smoothies, and yes, they're packed with good fats, but the catch is their high potassium levels. For someone with even mild kidney problems, that extra potassium can build up fast, and avocados also contain oxalates which can contribute to kidney stones. Robert thought about Sunday brunch with Emily, his daughter, who always insisted on ordering avocado toast at their favorite cafe. He remembered how she laughed, saying, "Dad, you're more hip than half my friends when you order this." It had felt harmless, even trendy. Now the memory carried a weight he hadn't noticed before. Linda raised an eyebrow. "So you're telling us even avocado toast isn't safe if we go overboard?" Dr. Harris gave a wry smile. "Moderation, Linda, always moderation. One slice of toast won't hurt, but 3 or 4 avocados a week. That's where risk sneaks in." Robert exhaled slowly, realizing that even the foods praised on TV shows and magazines weren't immune to hidden dangers. Dr. Harris folded his hands and gave Robert a thoughtful look. "And finally, oranges. They're almost a tradition in this country. A glass of orange juice with breakfast, especially here in the Midwest, feels as American as it gets. But here's the problem. Oranges carry a heavy sugar load and their compound delimonene can thin the blood. For someone already on blood pressure or blood-thinning medication, that can quietly increase the risk of bleeding." Robert immediately pictured the carton of orange juice in his fridge, the same one he had been pouring from every morning for years. He recalled Sunday mornings when he'd squeeze fresh oranges by hand, proud to serve his family something healthy. Linda gave a nervous laugh. "So even fresh squeezed is risky," Dr. Harris nodded gently. "Again, moderation. A small glass now and then is fine, but daily large servings, that's when trouble can creep up." Robert felt a chill run through him. Something so ordinary, so woven into daily life, could be silently setting traps for his health. Robert sat quietly, absorbing everything he had just heard. Mangoes, papayas, bananas, avocados, oranges, each one carried risks he had never considered. For years, he had trusted these foods, even feeling proud that he chose them over processed snacks. Now it felt as if the ground beneath his feet had shifted. Dr. Harris leaned forward, his tone steady but reassuring. "Robert, this isn't about fear, it's about balance. A slice of mango, a banana with breakfast, a glass of orange juice once in a while, that's fine. What you need to avoid is excess. Think of fruit like a tool, use it wisely and it helps. Overuse it and it harms." Robert nodded slowly, realizing the truth was not to abandon fruit but to respect its limits. On the drive home, Linda reached for his hand. "We'll figure it out together," she said softly. Robert smiled faintly, a mix of relief and determination settling over him. For the first time, he saw his choices not as habits but as decisions, decisions that could mean the difference between health and harm. That evening, Robert sat on the porch with Linda, watching the sunset paint the sky in soft shades of orange and pink. He thought about his grandchildren, about the friends at church potlucks, and even about Miguel next door who loved sharing papayas in summer. The knowledge he had gained today felt too important to keep to himself. "People should know this," he murmured. Linda nodded. "Then tell them, share it." The next Sunday, Robert brought it up during a casual coffee hour at church, surprising a few friends who had also believed that more fruit is always better. He realized that sharing wasn't about spreading fear, but about protecting one another. Just as Dr. Harris had said, balance was the key. Looking out at the quiet street, Robert felt lighter, not because he had cut fruit out of his life, but because he now understood how to keep it in its rightful place. And deep down, he hoped others would hear this message too, before it was too late.